So we're going to end up putting the tray into and out of the car a couple of times just to prepare it for the car. And so the first time we put it in, we're going to take these shorter bolts. There's short bolts and there's long bolts. We're going to take the shorter bolts and put them through all of these holes. So all our bolts are in there. And we're going to take these shorter threaded standoffs and just put one on each bolt here. Now that we have all of these threaded standoffs attached, we're going to set the tray in the car with no modules. And you'll have to kind of pick up on these bolts until it falls in. Now we'll take the smaller blue bag out of the parts kit and we're going to just dump that into a tray. And we're going to take these 4 M8 bolts and we're going to loosely thread all 4 of these in. Okay, now I'm going to just kind of tighten these, but not a whole bunch. Just kind of get them kind of snug. And so the reason we can't tighten these bolts all the way yet is that in a couple of spots, the bolt heads are actually going to be pushing against the chassis. And so what we need to do is find which ones are tight. Some of them will be loose. That one's loose, which is fine. This one's also loose. That one's loose. This one's a little snug. That one's loose. So you kind of just need to feel here and see which ones of these need hitting. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a hammer and just very lightly just kind of tap on this. It doesn't take a lot of effort because this tray is holding this bolt head exactly where it needs to be. So this one's good now. It just needs to be able to move just a little bit. Now that one's moving. Okay, once they're all moving, we'll go ahead and tighten these screws just a little bit more. Still not all the way tight. And we'll repeat the same process. And we'll just tighten these a little bit more. And we'll repeat the same process. And at this point, we could probably tighten these all the way. And now that they're all the way tightened, we still need to make sure that they can all move. It only needs to be just, a millimeter. So once you have about a millimeter of gap on all of them, we'll go ahead and loosen and remove all of these bolts so that we can remove the tray. Okay, so now we're going to remove the tray and we're going to remove all of these bolts and the threaded standoffs. Okay, with the bolts removed, we're going to put the tray back in. And we're going to just loosely thread these M8 bolts again. Now we're going to unbox the LiBCM PCB. And we're going to remove these 4 nuts. And then we're also going to remove these 4 metal washers. Then we're going to take the Allen wrench that comes with the kit and we're going to remove this bolt, but not that one. There's one that has fingernail polish in it, so don't take that one out. And we will lift this up and these red washers are going to kind of pull up with it and we'll take them off. And then this cover should just lift off completely. So with that, we'll set the PCB aside and we'll go and use this as a template in the car. Now we need to mark the holes so that we can install this cover which attaches to the aluminum IMA bay here. So what we need to do is several things. First of all, this needs to be as far down as possible and it should rest on these foam pads here and there. And then we need to center it to where these 2 holes here and also these 2 holes here are basically centered around this air intake right there. So we kind of want it to be right in the middle. And again, we need to make sure it's kind of down as far as it can be, but also still being flush with this aluminum. So if you push it too far down, it's going to not be flush. So that's way too far down. We're going to come up to basically right here and then center these holes. And then we're going to take a Sharpie or a pencil and we're going to mark these holes. When you remove this cover, These 4 holes should be fairly centered around this opening here. If they're offset one way too much or the other, then you can use alcohol, clean them off, and try again. Okay, next we're gonna take a wood block and we're gonna just put it behind here to kind of give us a little bit of stability and keep us from drilling into our hand. And then we're gonna take 2 drill bits. First I'm using a 1/8 inch drill just to pilot these holes. Now we're going to change to a 3/16 inch drill to widen these holes out. Okay, so now we're going to use just a deburring tool if you have one. If not, you can use just a razor blade just to clean off any metal burrs. And then finally, we will vacuum all of this out. So now we're going to take the PCB and we're going to just do a test fit. We're going to take the cover, just set it back on, and then we're going to just take this and make sure all 4 of these threads fit through the holes. And they do. So we're just test fitting it. So once you've verified that it all works, we'll just take it back out. So now we're going to take a Sharpie or some other marking device, and we're going to just take and mark where each of these holes goes through. So now we're going to take the tray out. So the goal is that we're going to put one of these pads underneath all of these holes so that they don't rattle. So you can kind of just look down and see if you need to. You can oftentimes see the bolt head, but you could come in here and put a bigger mark here just so you can see where these are. So now we're going to take these felt pads and just adhere them down to the bottom. If your floor is particularly dirty, you might want to clean it. On these middle ones, we can just put one here that kind of goes between both of the X's.